Yes, the Rochester Rotary April 6th meet. My name is Ron Lechtel. I serve as your club president. Would you please stand and join me in Pledge of Allegiance?
I can't stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, Please join me in reciting the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Is David Erdley here today? Oh, you're the one. He didn't. Oh, maybe he did tell me. Here you go, Jerry.
Let us pray. Father, we pause to say thanks for this warm spring day, for the food we've received, and for the opportunity as Rotarians to make a difference in the lives of people in Rochester, across America, and around the world. Give us vision and strength so our efforts will do the greatest good. We pray for those working to stem the virus and for healing and comfort for those affected by it. Finally, we pray for an end to the divisiveness that has attacked our country. May we all work to find common ground for a truly united United States. We ask this in the name of your Son. Amen.
Mr. Jeff Whitby.
Thank you, President Ryan. Good afternoon and welcome to the greatest club on earth. And we do have a guest today, Ryan Deal. Right? Where'd you go? He's over there. Introduce your guest. It's okay. Brian has brought his wife, Melinda. Welcome.
Yes. I think we're talking about the same thing. No, there's another. What I was going to say is, if we can get the complaint numbers from the DDA list, we can create that report from InfoView that has the complaint numbers, and then we can just suck those out.
Steve, you are not muted.
And sorry.
Right. 15th sign today was Tim Duncan. So no fines for Tim. We have any happy bucks? All right. Got to keep remembering to bring this phone with me.
Thank you, Mr. President. Listen, I'm going to give a happy $20.
Woo!
I've been working on a project at the park, trying to give more awareness to our community. I want to thank two people that made this possible. Number one, Mo did an excellent job, and if you look up, flip that around. Oh, you've got it on there. Inside the gazebo, there is signage inside there that explains who we are, how to get in touch with us, who Paul Harris is, what we stand for. And I think we owe a lot to Mo and Christine. We sure that everything was. So I want to open that. And Mo is here today, so let's give him a round of applause.
Yeah. All right, Mo.
Gave us a ridiculous price on it, so most of it was donated. So I want to thank him for that. The other thing is, we have the spring cleanup a week from this Saturday, which is the 17th. And the park is in pretty good shape, actually. We're going to have to do a little cleanup, but very little. But we're going to have about 5 or 6 yards of mulch to move. And I have a list of people. I'm going to read that real quick. Myself, Rachel, Don, Kate Bode, Marty McClure, Paul Hay, Rhonda Little, Eric Whipple and his son Matthew, Ron Lichtel, Jerry Gross, Brent Blankenship, and Bill Wagoner. So I want to thank all you guys for signing up for that. I think we're in good shape for the 17th if everybody shows. Now, the only other thing is we have our garage sale that is on May the 1st. And we're starting to collect quite a few items. We had the storage sense over on Livernois give us some area over there to store our stuff. So we need to really thank them. That was free gratis, and we really appreciate that. We're going to start filling it up, but on Friday, April the 30th in the afternoon, we're going to move everything out to either into trucks or onto trailers, so that the following morning at 6 in the morning, we're going to set up over at the park, and then we're going to be there for the entire day till 5 o'clock. So we have 3 shifts on Saturday. I'm going to send a sign-up sheet around and to fill that, because 4 people there at each. Thank you very much. I'll send this on.
Thanks, Bill. You got a happy buck.
Had a great 6 days of skiing in Snowmass, Colorado without any broken bones. About 50 miles downhill in that time, and give people an idea if they're not skiers. I'm not the fastest, but we're up around 40 miles an hour at times, and 2 or 3 miles. Anyhow, it was a good time.
You got a happy buck. We got any happy bucks online? Okay, none online. Remember birthdays. April 7th, Jerry Gross. Let's sing happy birthday to Jerry. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jerry. Happy birthday to you. $5, please. Dig deep, Jerry. Club anniversaries. Timo, 28 years. Angela Delpop, 1 year. And David Walker, 1 year.
Oh, really?
1 year. Come on. It says 1 year. You're a newbie. Bill Evinger just mentioned the garage sale at the park, May 1st. Don't forget that. Masters raffle tickets. Make sure when you see Lars or call him, he's got the tickets now. He's in charge of that. Tom DeVoe. Where's Tom at? There he is. He's got something to bring up here.
Thank you, Ron. Okay, this is a save your date. Get your calendars out, your phone, whatever. May the 19th, it's a Wednesday at the Rochester Community House over on Ludlow. We're gonna have a spring fling. We're gonna run it from 6 p.m. till 8:30. It's gonna be a tent on the outside of the building, on the rear of the building. This is open to Rotarians and your significant other or guest, whoever you want to bring, but this is just not open to just Rotarians. We're gonna have a limited bar. We're gonna have some beer, some wine, some booze. We're gonna have some hot hors d'oeuvres. Ron DeLitto is working on that. He's chair. If you've got any special requests, ask Ron, maybe a little calzone or something like that. But hey, we're trying to get everybody together. We understand some of you that are not ready to come together, but those of you that do want to come together, it's going to start at 6 o'clock, May 19th. It's a Wednesday. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Mentioned that if you have things for the garage sale, bring them here.
Yes, Bill just mentioned if you have anything for the garage sale, bring them to the meeting and we'll get them over to the storage unit. So then we can move them from there into the park when it comes up. Rotary of the Week. Last week it was given to, was it Steve Ayler or to Lars? Steve. Oh, no, that's it. It was Steve Ayler. Steve Ayler gave it to Lars Norberg because Lars stepped up to the plate and took over the Masters. And Steve is on vacation. So next up, Sheriff, is David Blair available? David, are you online? Well, we met, is Pete here today? It's not the first time you've got take over and wing it.
We'll wing it. Okay, David Blair, that's a $25 fine right off the bat. Archibald, that's a $25 fine for you too, because you're probably late. If you walk in, it's $30. So I don't know what else to give fines for. So let's just everybody put $5 on the table and make it easy for me. I don't know if Barnett's online. I'm sure he's not. But Mo, I'm going to give you a $10 fine for charging Rotary something for those signs. It should have been 100% free.
Gave us a good deal.
Yeah, I don't know. No deal.
I'll pay his fine.
No, we're gonna. If you have that much cash in your pocket for today, I'd like to get to know you.
Double the amount.
We can do that. It's double everybody's amount. Ernie, there's $5 for interrupting the sheriff, and that'll do it for me. Thanks, everybody. $5. I'll come and collect. Online people are fine as well. Thanks for stepping up. Well, we're going to have plenty of time for our speakers. Mr. Tim Duncan.
All right, good afternoon, Rotarians. Our speakers today are Victor Dorr and Rick Forrest. Rick Forrest is a retired Rochester High School teacher and longtime friend of Mr. Dorr since the 7th grade. Victor currently works as the building and maintenance supervisor at the OPC with a background in mechanical engineering. Victor and Rick's birding experience together goes back 45 years when Rick was a biology student at Central Michigan University. The duo started doing these lectures a couple of years ago and have spoken to groups at local libraries, senior centers, garden clubs. All of the pictures that you see today have been photographed by them. They love the hobby and hope they can spark interest with the people they meet and speak to. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Victor Dorr and Rick Forrest.
Thank you, Tim. It's a pleasure for us to be here today. And just as a quick point of interest, we're both sons of Rotary. So I don't know whether that qualifies as a subgroup or whatever.
$5, please. You're junior Rotary. Junior Rotary.
Well, I'm going to let Rick talk a little bit about what we're going to do today. Basically, we're going to talk to you about a great little hobby that doesn't take a lot of money or a lot of time. And it's great for older folks, younger folks, and kids love it. So Rick, why don't you fill them in on something?
All right. Is my, oh, there.
He's got it.
I wanted to be in front of the phone for at least part of the time.
Do you want me to put it up?
No, that's fine, right there.
Okay. All right.
First off, thank you everybody for coming and watching. We always relish an opportunity to share our enthusiasm for birds. Once the slideshow starts, I'm going to stand off to the side so I can use this clicker. maybe a little closer to the computer. I don't know if this is on.
Yeah,
You got to hold a little. Oh, okay, there we go. All right, thank you so much. And
Yeah, I think we can get started. I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna back up a little bit so that I can see the screen and go along with the flow here. All right, let's see. Of course, this is your introduction to birding with the bird guys. And there we are, somewhere up front. I guess we're gonna have to go with a manual dance. A assisted dance. We can go to the next slide. There we go. So, first off, why did you get into this hobby and why should anybody go birding? Well, and then, I need to advance. There's animations on the slide. They're colorful. That's the first thing. Look at these couple of birds on the left. That's one of the things that attracts us. There's beautiful bird songs, and if we could do one more advance. What you're hearing here is the bird that's on the left. I know the contrast isn't real good because of the lighting, but that's a scarlet tanager. And we have another slide of them later on. But anyway, it's a hobby that you can do anywhere, anytime. I mean, once you have something to identify them with and a pair of binoculars, they don't take up much room. So the only two things that you need is something to help you identify the bird and something to get a little bit closer view. So we're going to talk a little bit how to get into it. These are some, in the old days, you always had to have a print field guide, hard copy. And these nowadays, you can go with a smartphone app, which we find a little more convenient. But there are still some field guides available, and I think we put some of those on the handout. Yeah. And the smart apps is smartphone apps as well. So, yeah, the apps are nice because they contain maps, audio of the bird calls and things like that. So you have a real reference guide right there in your pocket, as opposed to just printed material that you had in the book form. So if you don't own a pair of binoculars, we're going to talk just a little bit about binoculars because people go to buy them and they're not really sure. There's two traditional designs, and I have both of them to show here. This one is a more traditional design, and this is called a coral prism binocular. This is what was made for years and years and years. More recently, a lot of birders are using what are called a roof prism binocular. They're a little more compact. They're also slightly more expensive to make. And you can see in this slide, the light path through the roof prism binocular it looks like it's going straight through, but it's actually a little more complex than the old coral prism binoculars. Yeah, the light gets folded in amongst itself through a couple of prisms. So that's how you're able to reduce the size and the width of the binoculars. And over the years, the quality of the prisms has increased dramatically. And that being said, today for $100, you can get a pair of binoculars that would far exceed whatever you could get for $200, $300, $400. 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 years ago. So the technology has moved really rapidly. There are two numbers that you should be concerned with when you go to purchase binoculars. One is the magnification, and the other is the objective diameter for the lens. The objective diameter is basically the width of the lens. I'm holding up these binoculars between my thumb and forefinger. That's the width of the objective lens. The bigger that is, the more light gets through, but then the bigger your binoculars become. And the heavier they get. So the magnification of, like, for example, an 8x42 pair, which would be these, 8 times magnification. You're going to bring your subject basically 8 times closer. And then the 42 millimeter objective, that's a real popular size for birders. It seems to be the sweet spot between too much magnification and too little. And
You know, 42 lets a lot of light in, so it's a pretty good size.
All right, so here we have a comparative, basically, silhouette showing the relative size difference between different common birds that you're all used to. And this is a good way to just get started. You know, when you recognize that that little brown guy that you see on the ground there looks more like the one on the lower left, you're probably looking at a sparrow.
But if you go to describe a bird that you've seen to somebody, it's helpful if you say, well, it was a crow-sized bird, robin-sized bird, a sparrow-sized bird. Hey, I think this worked. Was that you or me? Okay. So, you want to describe a bird to somebody, you're going to look at appearance. Tell them about this one.
Yeah. Immediately, it was a blue bird with, colored grass. Well, that's going to tell you in this area, pretty much the only bird we're going to find like that is the eastern bluebird. And this was in my yard in downtown Rochester.
And sometimes you'll look at a bird where maybe the appearance alone, if you're describing it to somebody, I mean, you can tell a bird, blue bird with an orange breast, it's pretty hard to not identify it as a bluebird, but this is a bird that's in the flycatcher family. And it turns out there's other birds in that family that look extremely similar to this bird. However, if you happen to hear it, it's called an eastern wood pewee.
That's the name from the call. Pewee, pewee.
And then the other thing you want to take note of is where you saw the bird. That becomes very important if you're, describing a bird to somebody. It's a wren, and a lot of wrens have their, kind of tail in the air like that. But where did you shoot this one, Dick?
Well, this guy was on a cat. Lake St. Clair Metro Park. That is a marsh wren.
Take note of the behavior of the bird. This bird carefully pumping its tail up and down. See that quick with the tail up and down. That's a characteristic of the bird. And so, you're looking at a worm. Well, this one is pretty distinctive, but when you see the tail pumping like that, it's characteristic of this particular bird.
And that's a palm warbler. Now you're all asking us, why would you have a palm warbler? Well, pretty much most of the winter they spend down in Florida in the tropics. They come back north to breed during the spring and summer.
And then if you have an identification guide and you're all trying to figure out a bird, you always want to kind of look at the range of the bird and the time of year that you're looking at it. And this happens to be a bay-breasted warbler, but if you look at the migration map on the right, all of that yellow is during migration. Well, migration for most of these warblers in Michigan is the month of May. And so, yeah, it fits. If you're seeing it in southern Michigan, let's say, in March or something, or August, it might not fit. So you always want to be conscious of the range maps.
Yeah, and these guys take these similar paths both inbound and outbound. They're coming up on spring migration season very quickly, which usually peaks in mid-May. And this map here shows you what they call flyways. And the different colors that you see there represent the routes that birds will take to get to their northern breeding ground. And as you can see, Michigan actually is at the intersection of two different flyways. The green one is referred to as the Mississippi Flyway because it follows up the Mississippi River. And on the right, you can see the Atlantic Flyway. So as the birds start to get north up into Canada and the boreal forests, you kind of get across these two.
And when they're coming through Michigan, they tend to follow the coastal areas of Michigan, let's say. So one of our favorite spots, which we'll tell you about a little later, 2 slides from now, is Tawas Point, which is where that is. It's on the Lake Huron shoreline. So a good place to start is right in your backyard. You know, you're set up, you've got some binoculars now, you've got something to help you figure it out. This is one of the first signs of spring.
I'm familiar with that call.
These guys arrived, they came to my house, it was either the last day of February or the first day of March that I saw them, you know, out behind my house. But I live on a little marshy area, so we get these lovely coming in, and that's, I get excited because, you know, that's a sign of spring for me. So this next few slides are things that I shot last summer out behind my house. This is called a yellow throat. You get,
And again, that is one of the warbler family. And pretty distinctive with the black mask. And then if you see him straight on, he's got a deep yellow throat. This one's a yellow warbler.
see what they,
Sometimes if you're close enough, you can see red streaks on the breast of this bird. Quite pretty. Another one that's very active when it feeds.
this one's called a Blackburnian warbler. Very, you know, we have a little light in here, but here's the sound. Most of these warblers have a little bit weaker voice, kind of similar sounding for a lot of them. But if you see this bird live, it's just a very bright, brilliant orange head, you know, black and orange head. This one's called a chestnut-sided warbler. You get the chestnut kind of, you know, flanks area under the wing there. And again, these birds were all right behind my house last year.
Yeah, when we do these shows, a lot of people comment on the fact that they're very colorful. And they don't really realize that these kind of birds are around them. So all it is just to be a little bit alert and, you know, keep your eyes peeled. You'll hear and you'll see all of these.
These warblers, most of them are not seed eaters, so you're not going to get them to like a feeder. But if you just go outside in May, especially, and just start looking at the shrubs around your house and the trees, look for movement in the trees, you'll see a lot of these that we're showing you right now. Now, I think this is probably one of the most familiar birds, just, you know, the American robin. Here, let's listen to it.
I know they told them, I like to talk to people.
We're on a service area in our yard, and they're just gorgeous. The robins, 4 or 5 robins in the trees. And it's gorgeous. Yeah.
What kind of camera and what kind of lens are you using for this?
We both shoot in a format called Micro Four Thirds. It's a mirrorless camera. We both shoot in Lumix by Panasonic. And we use like a 100 to 400 zoom. And on the Micro Four camera format, the sensor is slightly smaller, so there's something called a crop factor. And we have a 2x crop factor. And what that really means is a 400 millimeter lens is going to deliver the performance of an 800 millimeter lens. So that's, you know, if you're going to start shooting birds, you need around 6 or 7 or 800 millimeters of magnification to get good shots.
Okay, these are a couple of sandhill cranes, pretty popular around here now, especially if you go north on Rochester Road up by Blackheath Golf Course, up by Fogler's. You'll see these guys out in the field foraging around. They're bad. Another early arrival. Go up with the
All right, this is called an eastern kingbird, and it's also in the flycatcher family. I showed one flycatcher earlier, but this one's a little more distinctive looking. I might have been a little too late on getting the microphone up. But anyway, yeah, white band across the tail, dark top half of the head. And they're actually very common. This is a bird, just, on any particular day, you can see, quite a few of these.
Open, at the edge of open fields, things like that. You'll see them quite common out there at Stone Creek.
We have some shrubs by our house. They're called cranberry viburnum. They're not a true cranberry, but they're a large, tall shrub, and they get red berries on them in late winter. Nothing heats them all winter, but this is actually March. This was actually a couple weeks ago. These are called cedar waxwings. And they're not so much migratory as some of the other birds I'm showing you. They do, some of them migrate a little further south and that sort of thing. But what attracted them were these berries. They're fruit-eating birds. And I was in my kitchen, and my wife goes, "Look out the window here. Look at all these waxwings on these shrubs." And I actually took this standing at my kitchen sink. I don't know if that's coming through. They have kind of a weaker voice.
Very good voice.
Okay, this is a bird that some of them can stay around in the winter, but again, more of them will be back at this time of year. This is a song sparrow. Now, you might be familiar with, let's say, what they call a house sparrow, which is a real common bird you see around urban areas. But a house sparrow is actually not one of our native sparrows. They're introduced from Europe, back in the 1800s. So this is one of quite a few species of native sparrows, and kind of the central identifying thing is that central spot on its chest. Let's see if we can hear it. Yeah. This is when May comes around, actually the last week of April, beginning of May, you want to start putting out like grape jelly and oranges to attract orioles. This is an orchard oriole. It's a first-year male orchard. So that was a surprise visitor because most of them are orioles or the Baltimore oriole. Let's see if we can hear them.
Very nice call. The first years are all yellow with black markings, and the mature one is red. I like a robin's breast with the black spot.
And this is the Baltimore oriole, and this is the video. I think you can. There we go.
There we go.
Now he's eating some grape jelly. Then there's a house finch that just landed there, also eating some grape jelly. You'll get all kinds. I get red-bellied woodpeckers eating the grape jelly. I mean, all kinds of birds just love that stuff. Baltimore orioles will go after the oriole feeders because they like nectar. And this was actually, we were actually camping when I got this one. They're quite entertaining. You see a lot of acrobatics, to try to get it, a feeder that has nectar in it. Because that feeder is designed for hummingbirds to hover below it. And this bird wasn't having any part of that. He was just going to grab onto it.
And here's another feeder that has quite a variety at it. You can see that on the left there, we have the blue jays, which are very common around here. In the middle is a red-bellied woodpecker, even though the red head is indicative on that bird. There is another species of woodpecker, the red-headed woodpecker, that has a fully red head and black feathers. And then again on the right, we've got a Baltimore oriole. So this is a nice little show.
And you notice that all three birds are preferring a different food here. So the bigger variety of food you can put out, the bigger variety of birds you can get. Most popular feeding, all summer long. Start like last week of April, and then right into May and June and July, you get them all summer. This is a ruby-throated hummingbird.
The only hummingbird that we get here in Michigan. If any of you have ever lived out west, you know that in some states out west, you can get literally a dozen species. But these are nice guys here. They're kind of pugnacious, but they're also not afraid of humans.
Now, this is hanging right next to our deck, and they'll start buzzing around. The ship dive bomb, you know. The feeder gets a little low, they're like dive bombing, like where's my food, you know? So they're really fun, all in along. And one kind of interesting note is that ruby throat only looks ruby if you see it in the correct lighting, because there's no red pigment there. It's the structure of the feathers that it's giving it that color.
And that's true for pigment in a lot of birds. The color that you see is just a different refraction of the light coming off of their feathers.
Rose-breasted grosbeak. You can kind of see that rosy color on the breast.
They should be coming through any time now.
Yeah, yeah, they'll come through, latter part of April, they'll start coming through. They have a pretty cool song. If you build or put out a wren house, the chances are pretty good you're going to get house wren as a tenant. And they're pretty, you know, like you want the whole size to be maybe around a 1 1/8 inch. If anything bigger than that, you'll probably get something else moving in instead, like a house sparrow. But this guy's got an insect larvae of some sort, and he's got a couple of hungry youngsters there. Here's what they sound like. If you get them if you get them nesting in your yard, you'll hear that sound all summer.
I have on 2 occasions had nesting house wrens.
Now, another nice way to attract birds besides your feeder is to put out a bird bath. This happens to be a winter shot of a robin. And the reason that thumbnail came in there, the mourning dove, most of my birds use the bird bath the way the robin is using it. But at my house, the mourning doves like to use it the way that mourning dove is sick. And therefore, clean the bird bath out frequently.
All right, here's a couple of great blue herons. Actually, it's a male and female on the nest. Took this picture right off of Parkdale between Letka and Quinder. And this was only about a week ago. They're in breeding plumage and they're on the nest, getting ready to have little ones. That's what a heron rookery looks like. Generally, herons will breed in colonies like this. So as you can see, there's probably over a half a dozen or so nests here.
Now we're going to show you a few shots from Tallis Point. That's probably one of our favorite birding spots. As birds migrate north, Tallis Point seems to catch a lot of those migrants and very much concentrate them. To the point where you're walking through this place and well, there'll be literally dozens of birds.
And you won't need expensive equipment to photograph or even to view them. And like Rick said earlier, you can see where Tawas is located just north and a little west of the thumb there, and they come across Saginaw Bay there. And usually the point is the first place they see, and that's where they want to stop, feed, and rest. So it's almost like a captive audience.
And so this scarlet tanager, you know, again, this was in that opening slide, but I thought I'd show you just a little bit better picture. And let's see if we can hear it one more time. That song has been described as a robin with a short throat.
If you ever see one of these guys in the wild, you will never forget it because the color is that intense that you just stare at it. You know, I had no idea that there was anything that red.
And this is another real colorful one, very popular to see, and that's an indigo bunting. Yeah, this is one of those birds that there's no blue pigment. The structure of the feather, there's some physics involved in getting that blue color out of their feather. it. That's Magnolia warbler. So we showed you those already. Steph is one of our favorites, real colorful one. If we can hear it. Yeah, call. Okay. Keep clicking.
Back on.
All right, so.
Here we go.
No, I don't think so. Okay. Okay, that's all right. We're gonna go to the next. This is called an American red star. This is actually one of the more common ones. And this is one of the ones that you might see staying around here, versus most of these warblers fly further north.
We have to tell you, warblers are very small birds, smaller than sparrows. Larger than a hummingbird, but smaller.
This is called a black-throated blue warbler. See if we can hear him.
Now you can only imagine when you're walking through the woods in spring, let's say somewhere around Mother's Day, and you hear all of these different calls. It's pretty inspiring. And it's amazing because after a while, if you got to the point to identify these birds, you start identifying them by their call before you actually even see them. So, little guy is a black and white warbler. No colors, just all black and white, just black and white.
We do have a question. Has the closing of the airport base in Oscoda had an effect on the birding in Colorado?
Actually, I don't know the answer to that. I know they used to bring some huge planes in there, and I'm sure that it disrupted some of the wildlife. So
It's also a little ways from College Point.
True.
A little bit further out, in the water. So I'm guessing it wasn't a big change, but there might have been some.
Right next.
Not too far from Tawas Point is it's called Puddle Marsh.
Yep.
This was a Virginia rail.
Not a wading bird like not a water bird like ducks or coots. These are what they call marsh birds.
Another place that we used to frequent more, we haven't been there in a few years, is Oak Harbor, like in Ohio, on the northern shore of Lake Erie. There has been last year or this year, I don't think they're related to the pandemic, but there's a big festival there called the Big Week in American Birds. Because what happens when warblers are migrating north, they'll kind of congregate there at the edge of the lake and kind of build their stamina, get a little more food going, and then they start to cross the lake. So right there.
Yeah, I tend to get the other side of the lake up there near Leamington, Ontario, is Point Pelee, another world famous hotspot for spring migration. So a lot of these birds just hopscotch those little islands, like Pelee Island and Putin Bay, that kind of thing, and make their way over to Canada.
So these are a few slides from Oak Harbor, blue gray neck. Black-throated green. We saw the black-throated blue a little while ago. And the black-throated green, P's, number of cheese. Let me hear that. Maybe it's not coming through. Probably a female. The males are a little bit color around the head.
You guys are probably looking at all this going, I don't know how you guys separate all this stuff. You know, you show us custom. Not a great migration season, which would be mid-May or tail end coming back south mid-September, to see all of these different birds on the same day, sometimes in the same habitat.
Now, in the fall, so far we've had lots of birds coming through in the spring. But you will see some of the same birds in the fall, but in the fall, a lot of the warblers will not have what we call nuptial plumage. They're maybe a much duller plumage. And so they're not quite as active and they're a little bit harder to spot. So you can still see some of them in the fall, but the best time to see them is in May. There's a thumbnail on the right that I put in just to show you that same bird, the way it would look in the spring. Now, most of the birds that we've shown to this point are considered migratory. But there are some birds that just hang around here all year round, so you don't want to stop birding, you know, just because they've gone through it in May. The downy woodpecker, a lot of them get stopped. This is a summer shot of a red-dotted woodpecker that we showed earlier. I think this is a video.
It's a video, so I think we can hit it.
They love oranges, but they love seed feeders too, and they love suet. And you'll get them all winter long.
That's their call.
Oh, are we over?
No, yeah, just maybe wrap it up.
Okay, so we're going to fly through these pretty quickly then. Tell everybody. White-breasted nuthatch.
And his cousin, the red-breasted nuthatch. And sometimes if you're patient enough and you're out in the woods, you get lucky enough to get a bird to come and feed out of your hand. Kids love to do this. This was all intended.
Black-capped chicken. Blue jay, I think most of you are familiar with that one. It's the video. Killing a peanut out of the peanut feeder.
So the entertainment value that you get from some of this is pretty good also. I know that identification can be a bit of a deal, but afterwards you start watching.
Wrap this thing up. Late February, early March, and these came to my feeder. These are called redpolls, common redpolls, and they're actually birds that nest almost into the tundra. They're way up in northern Canada. So they actually wandered south down into Michigan. They do that on some years when their food supply up there is scarce.
That's a snowy owl. It is another one that comes down from the boreal area. You can't get enough light.
And it's once in a while, you're not supposed to see. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you want to look at the range map, but very rare where you will see something well out of its range.
That one was the mountain bluebird spotted over in Mount Clemens 7 years.
And this one's a painted bunting. And there you see the range map. They're really not supposed to be in Michigan, but this was at Tallis Point.
So we always get what we call accidental sometimes.
Now, how do we know about these accidentals? You can sign up for ebird.org to get an email of rare bird sightings. And so we're actually, it's not looking like the sheet on the left, showing the blow up of a couple of birds. This was from a little while earlier this year, but ebird.org, you can get an email every day about birds that are more rare or unusual for that time of year and so on.
What people are seeing in your area. That's what's nice. And here's one right here. I took this one on Good Friday. There was a report on eBird. I don't know if anybody in here recognizes this bird. There are only 300 of these left in the wild. This is a whooping crane. And it was spotted about 1.5 miles north of Morenci, Michigan. So that pretty much wraps up our presentation. If you have any questions, we can handle any at all. If not, we got them right behind you. Yes, sir.
My second question is, I watched a fascinating show the other day about a species of bird that was becoming extinct because they only had 300 or 400 left. And the males were not singing as loudly and as they used to, so they actually recorded it and they'd go out and play it in the woods to the other male birds to kind of step their game up. Do we have anything like that with an endangered species in Michigan?
Not that I know of in Michigan. That last picture of the whooping crane would probably come about the closest. I know that there are some salt marsh wrens and sparrows on the East Coast that they're having trouble with. And
There's other very rare birds. There's the curlew red bird.
true, yeah, like the bird.
So they're, they only nest in mostly have to be several. They have found places, but that's where the most all the world population nests, right up there.
Yeah, I think in the last 10 years, they've had a couple of locations in Wisconsin, but the state of Michigan has been very good about that with the DNR and also working with the National Wildlife people. They burn large tracts up near Mile to help promulgate the small jack pines that they tend to breed in.
We have 2 questions online. 1, what do you do with squirrels? And 2, what app do you recommend?
What do you mean? What app do you recommend to get rid of squirrels?
No, 2 separate questions.
No, I know. Okay. Squirrels, you do the best that you can to try and live with them because they're smarter than you think they are. And I don't care how much money you spend on bird feeders, they're going to figure out a way to get that seed.
Yeah, some bird feeders, the birches will close. Sometimes the squirrels can defeat those. Sometimes you just, like right now my suet feeder has plain suet. There's no seed in the suet. The squirrels are really after the seed that's in the suet. But the woodpeckers and nuthatches and some of the other birds will still like the suet part of the suet. So you can get what's called plain suet, and the squirrels aren't as attracted to that. You can get pepper flavored seed suet, which if they're hungry enough, they may still go there. There's a few things.
And the second question had to do with apps.
Yeah, the app that you talked about in the beginning, how there are some for
Yes,
bird
the one
watching.
that Rick and I like to use is called iBird. And it's by the Mitch Waite Group. And it's available through the App Store for Apple. And I believe it's also in the Google Store. And about 15 bucks. And it's a wonderful resource that I've been using now for almost 10 years. But there are others that, National Geographic has them. And so you got to kind of shop around and see what you like.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a great group. Thanks.
Thank you, Victor and Rick. That was, to say the least, interesting. I still don't know how you keep track of all the different types of birds. Some of them look so much alike. Any other questions before we close out?